Kia ora, morena. This is gonna annoy me. Kia ora, morena. Hello, everyone. We'll just share this live and then we can connect. If you are joining us, say kia ora, say morena. Let me know that you are here. My name is Madeline Lee and I'm from Ride Your Stigma. We've got some really deep sharing that I'm going to share with you today. Copy. And we're going to pull a few cards to start because I've got a beautiful new deck, Romance Angels. So we will pull a message from there. And then we want to talk into womb stories, baby. Which is very, very, very big. Very, very big. So if you're joining me, say kia ora, say morena. If you know what a womb story is to you, what you perceive a womb story to be, or what might be included, what kind of things, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear your version and perception of what a womb story is. I have just signed up to a womb healing or womb health reclamation, I can never say that word, reclamation training with a beautiful wahine, Usha Anandi. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. Gosh, she is amazing. I've followed her for a long time, and she is doing a training this weekend. It's at 5 a.m. on Sunday, my time. So I am going to get up anyway and join it because I really want to learn some more, do some more womb healing and things as well. But in that space anyway, I registered for her training and in her community. If you want to join us, it is a free training. So send me a private message and I can send you the link to her free training this weekend. But yeah, in her community for the training, she has just popped up a few hours ago about sharing your womb story, and she shared a little bit of hers, and then I've just been in there and I've just gone live. And when I jumped into that space, I was like, oh yeah, my womb story. Like, what's my womb story? Like, what does she mean by that? And I've done a decent amount of womb healing before. I've still got a lot more to learn. But I went in my head, I was like, oh, so what does she mean? Like, what do I include for my womb story? And then I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to go live in the group and see what comes out of me. See what, and of course, I'll always think of my womb story, oh, herpes, straight away. But the word herpes is not my womb story. Like, that is not my womb story. Just saying the word herpes is my womb story. That's not my womb story. So, like, just even understanding what does womb story mean to you? Like, because that was big. So I've just gone live in there and just shared my womb story in that space. And then I was like, shit, this is delicious. I was like, I need to go and share this on my biz page so it can reach other people and open other people to being open to even understanding or thinking about their womb story. Because before the last couple of years, I didn't even know. I would have been like, a womb story, what the fuck is that? Like, literally, I would have been like, what are you up to? But it's fucking powerful. Once you start learning about it, it is so deep. Whatever starts to come out, and what we have gone through in our womb space, both energetically, physically, can have such an impact on all areas of our life. What we've been through as a child, what we've been taught at what we've been taught at school or from our families or our cultures or our society about our womb, about our sexuality, about our period bleed cycles, about giving birth, about motherhood, about all the things. They all come into a little basket that creates our womb story, or what we've heard other people in our close proximity have gone through or are going through in relation to things like sexual abuse, and things like shame around masturbation, or expectations of that we just have mainstream relationships that are male and female and that's it, and we should be exclusive. And then you've got like all your non-monogamous, your monogamy, or LGBTQA community, your gay, your lesbian communities, and all sorts, transgender. Like, it can go so deep, and a lot of this is like, all of this can be in our womb story, you know, and all of it is a part of it, and it's not just relating just to that. It has such a connection to like our self-worth, to our healing, to our confidence, to our happiness in our life, to our freedom of living the way that we want to or not. Okay, so I'm gonna, these two cards, literally when I shuffle at the moment, it's like a new thing when I'm doing readings and stuff. I like shuffle. And so my cards will be like this, and then I'll shuffle, and then literally in between shuffling, the card will like flip and turn up this way for me. Like, really, it's like, yeah, give it to me. I'm going to take that last card too. So those two first cards just literally flipped out like that. So I've got a new deck today, guys, so we're just going to have a check out of these, and then I'm going to share with you a bit about my womb story and my womb journey and some of the things that are in it, and maybe it will trigger or open something for you to maybe sit down and write a journal or share with someone what you think or feel comes through in your own personal womb story, because it can be really healing. And then sometimes we can, what I've just noticed in Usha's group, where I just shared about my womb story, I was like, oh, she has to share about her womb story. I was like, oh, you like herpes? That's what I thought in my head, oh, you like herpes? And then I was like, fuck. Suddenly it just dropped to me. I was like, there is so much more than herpes. I was like, medical contraceptive that I've been told for years that, like, well, not even told that, I'm going to come back to these cards because I'm going to get on a ramble, and then we're going to end up in my womb story anyway. So first card was actually this one that came out. So we're Romance Angels by Doreen Virtue today. Finances and career. Financial issues are a factor in your love life right now. And then we've got very soon, clearly decide what you want so that it comes to you now. So clarity, this one is like big on clarity. I kind of avoided this one because I know it's for me at the moment. I don't know what to say, and I'm having a little bit of resistance trusting my intuition because I know that's got me there. So just give me a moment. Very soon, clearly decide what you want so that it comes to you now. So I want to say like clarity. I want to say this message today is being like clarity. If you ain't clear on what you want, how the hell is it going to come to you? Like, how? It's like if someone asks you what do you want for dinner and you're like, I don't know, and then they don't get you dinner or they get you something else and you're like, I didn't want that. Well, you didn't tell me what you wanted. It wasn't clear. Like, it's a silly example, but I think this is definitely around love stuff very soon. It's like clarity. Can you have clarity? Like, if you're trying to work on calling in like love into your life, or are you replenishing a relationship, etc., it's like clarity. Like, really sit down and really like draw the boundaries of like, this is what I don't want and this is what I do want. This is what I'm welcoming. And sometimes people will be like, I'm hearing like when people go, oh, well, but Maddie, we don't want to focus on what we don't want, because then we're welcoming that in, or we're magnetizing that in. And I get that. But also, if we ignore what we don't want, it can also draw challenges for us as well. So if we choose to not dwell on it and hold in that space of what we don't want, but address it, speak it out, so we know clearly, oh, what I don't want is I don't want a partner that is lying to me or hiding things from me. That doesn't make me feel safe. I don't like that. And in the past, that's a wound that I've had before, where people have been dishonest. That's something I don't want. So what's the opposite of that I do want? So I want honesty. I want communication. I want openness. I want full openness. I want vulnerability. I want to catch up with whoever I have in my life in those relationships, and I want to be open and have that communication, and I want it to be raw, even if it's hard to swallow whatever they have to say or how they're feeling. And then release your ex was that last one that I just turned over. Release your ex. The time has come to clear your energy. So I think this is big for many people at the moment. Like, it's almost like when we first, if you break up with a partner, or maybe it may not even be a partner, it may be a friend, not break up with a friend, but like part with a relationship, you're grieving it, and you're parting with it because you're going on your own pathway, and so are they. And it's like, or like family members as well, detaching from family members, or just moving your own way away from them, because your path is here and their path is here, and that's okay. Everyone's path is different, and we're human. Our paths come and they cross and they go back and forth and around and all of these things. And it's like, come back to like, when we break up with someone, or we part and we go our own way. It's like, that time frame that you have while, like, those first few weeks, even those first few days where you're like, oh, and you really want to text them, or you're really thinking, oh, are they happy without me? Are they thinking about me? And all that kind of turning internally around, like the energy, because the energy is tied to them, especially if it's a romantic relationship where you've had intimacy, touch, sexual intercourse, etc. Like, we're exchanging energy. Like, your energies are one when you are sharing that space as well. So it's like coming back to like clear energy. The time has come to clear your energy. Release your ex. So it's like, the more we, and it's hard because it's breaking cycles, I was going to say, the more we think about that ex or that person that we are coming away from, the more we think about them, the more they're going to come into our head. So it's like breaking vicious cycles, like we'll be like, oh, suddenly they suddenly come into your mind, and you're like, oh my God, I'm thinking about them again because we miss them, or we love them, or we cared about them, or we're grieving about them. And I'm not saying don't feel that, because that's part of grieving, that's part of letting go, that's part of like healing, is feeling those moments and having those people, especially if it's like release your ex, it's a partner or a family member or someone you care about and you're parting with. They're obviously going to come up in your head. Even a job, like if you're breaking up with a job and you're like leaving a job and then you've just finished a job, you might often have that job popped into your head, like, oh my God, am I making the right decision, etc. So it's any sort of like detachment or grief or like separation, parting ways. They are going to put, like, it's natural for it to pop up in your head, but then it's also like it pops up in your head, and then bring awareness to it and go, okay, I'm thinking about them because I cared about them, even though we're on a different path now. And now I'm choosing that I need to step into clearing my energy and refocus. And each time we strengthen and those thoughts come up about that person or that situation, it's like it comes up in your head, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I noticed that I noticed that it's there, but now I'm going to refocus. Like, I'm sending them love, I'm sending that situation love, I'm grateful for the learnings, I'm grateful for the good memories. Now I'm going to shift it again, and it's going to come up again. It's like consistent practice over and over and over and over and over again. It's like a cyclical process. Kia ora, Jaden. Hi, lovely to have you here. I'm just pulling some cards, and then I'm going to step into a little bit about womb stories and our womb journey, which, while you're here, because you are a male, I want to say that I've been learning a lot about how men have a womb and a womb cycle phase as well, even though they don't have a physical womb. So don't feel like you are not included in this space, please. Appreciating everything you're sharing lately. Oh, I'm so glad, Jaden. Sophia, hi, beautiful. Welcome. So yeah, release your ex. That was the third one that we pulled, guys. And then I'm going to come back to this one because I avoided this first card, guys. If you just came on. I just got a new deck, Romance Angels by Doreen Virtue. And the first card I pulled out was the finances and career. Financial issues are a factor in your love life right now. And I just shared it like this, and I didn't really have anything to say, but I wasn't trusting my intuition because I know this card is talking to me directly. I know this message is talking to me directly. I'm still in the beginning stages of my business, believe it or not. Sometimes I'm like, well, I'm not now. It's like, it's rolling, it's flowing, and all the foundations are like half in, half out, like my business is there, but also I'm still in the beginning stages. If you have your own business or have tried to or ever have, you will get what I'm saying, because I'm like maybe 2.5 years in, realistically 2.5 years in my business, and people are like, well, Maddie, that's a long time. No, not in business. In business years, well, to me, in my perception, I'm like, 5 to 7 years. It takes like 5 to 7 years to really get a fucking groove, like really get all your foundations and nut out really what your vibe is, what your passion and your purpose is and your flow. So anyway, I avoided this card. It came out first and I was like, I don't know what to say to that because I know it's directly at me. I've had a few things definitely in my romantic relationship with my partner. He is beautifully supportive. I am so lucky to have him. But there's been some times he sent me money for food the other week. And because of what I do for business, it's like one week it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, really good week. And then the next week it's like, I've got $1.17, because that is the start of entrepreneurship, healership. It's like trust your intuition, the healing, it's not like that someone comes every day and gets petrol. It takes time and it is a long haul. And then also with my friendships, kind of with my family ships too, definitely financial. I definitely wouldn't label my issues financial issues, if that makes sense. I wouldn't use the word issues because they're not issues. It's just like my mentor says, beautiful Hannah, it's like money is breathe in, breathe out. It's a breathe in and a breathe out, and it's big, but not everyone is in the same understanding as that, and we all have a different mindset around it. Sophia says, so proud of you for going for it. I hear you, lol. Thanks, beautiful. So yeah, this one is definitely because so this is actually speaking to me in a sense that like I'm so on my purpose, and I've learned to come back to a little bit more self-care and joy because I've needed to, but at the moment I've been like head down, fucking ass up, like that's all it is like go, but like in a stabilized, not in a overworked, overwhelmed, like hurry up, like hustle, but in a like, this is my new lifestyle, and let's get consistency, let's go, and compromising. That's what I want to say too, like compromising when I get invited to a birthday or this or that or blah blah blah, a weekend away, and I'm kind of like, oh well, I'm gonna toss it up. Yep, 1 out of 4 times I can go, but all the other times that I used to go, no, I've got to compromise, because I've got to make a compromise because I want to be on my purpose with my passion and help people. And if I'm gonna get there, something's got to compromise until I've built the foundations, kind of thing. So big. Beautiful. Okay, so why did we come here today? I'm so hot right now. This is insane. I was like just checking if I had a top underneath. How funny is it? I do. We're good. We're safe, guys. So if you missed the start of the live, I've come on today because I want to talk a little bit into womb stories and womb journeys. So if you were a male, you still have a womb journey of some sort energetically. I'm yet to have any really good facts or information I'm supposed to give you on that, but you definitely do still have a womb space, a womb energy, and a womb story. So you're welcome in this space as well. I want to say I just signed up to a beautiful lady, Usha Anandi. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. She is like the womb queen. I just signed up to her free training this weekend. It's called something like womb health reclamation training, and it's free. It's on this weekend, so if you are interested in enrolling and joining me for that, send me a private message or a comment below and I can send you the link as well. She is incredible, and in that space we have just been asked to share our womb story in the community, and I was like, straight away I was like, oh well, so what's a womb story? Like, I'm like, what is a womb story? Like, who decides what's in a womb story? Where does it come from? And if you had a talk to the Maddie 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh, fuck up. What's a womb story? You're just talking hoo-ha. Like, that's literally what I would have kind of come into. And now, like, when I heard tell your womb story, like, what does your womb story entail? What does it have? Like, what is your womb story? How do you feel about it? I was like, oh, well, herpes. That's what straight away came into my head, was like, herpes is my womb story. And I was like, well, herpes isn't my womb story. It's the stories I have made up internally in my emotions and in myself and in my mind from all of the things in a combination that have created the beliefs around, I suppose, sexuality, our bleed cycles, our intimacy, our worthiness, our self-love, other people being able to love us or not. So there's so much deeper, and like, you could talk about womb stuff forever. Like, it is so deep, but I never used to know that before. So anyway, I went live in the space to tell my womb story before. She said we could write a post or go live, and I was like, oh, well, to be honest, I don't really fucking know, just like herpes, and herpes stigma, herpes judgment, herpes shame, like that's all I could really think of. And I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to press live and I'm just going to go. And then I started to unpack it and then realized, holy shit, our womb stories are so much deeper than we know until we start to crack it open, and then someone asks you, what is your womb story? Like, have you ever actually sat down and asked yourself what your womb story is from your whole life, from every experience, energetically, emotionally, and physically? Even from when you were a little person or a little girl or a little boy, when you first started to discover your body and go through normal physical development stuff, find out that you even had a body or even had genital area or and functioning things, learning how to even go to the toilet by yourself. You know, like all of this body awareness and these sensations and feelings and things. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so much deeper. How am I going to share this in like a few minutes of what my womb story is? And that's why I've come on here to share with you guys today, because if you're watching this or you're checking out the replay, it's like maybe this is a sign for you to sit down and either write it down, make a video, share with a friend, and really actually unpack what is your womb story. What in your womb story is the stories that you've taught yourself, the stories that you feel are serving, that you've healed, and then the ones that are external from you that have been given to you or learnt to you or taught to you through your societal upbringing. I'm going to start back when I was a teenager. I lost my virginity a couple of weeks off the age of 13. I used to always say when I was younger I was 13 when I lost my virginity, but it was actually, I was technically 12, but I would always say that I was 13 because it was a few weeks off and because that would be really frowned upon. I had also been with my boyfriend at the time for I think like a year or so when I was like 12. That's crazy, isn't it? And I feel like our world is definitely becoming younger and younger. Things like porn, LGBTQA, all sorts of things. Like, there's so much out there on the internet for our young people and stuff like that, and it's becoming younger and younger and younger. puberty and changing bodies and bleed cycles and everything is becoming younger and younger and younger, and it's really challenging because as a parent, like how do you know and decide what you want to share with your little person and be honest and open with them, and then how excuse me, and then how do you choose what stuff you don't want to share with them because you're trying to protect them and keep their youngness for them. And that's such a, there's a whole nother conversation. I'm going to get off track here, but it really strikes passion in me as well, talking about having those conversations and stuff like that, about teaching our little people. Eventually one day I'm going to be teaching a body awareness, and in a form, it's not going to have the word sexuality in it, I don't think. There's another word coming, but a sexuality course for little people and their parents. Like, oh my god, there's something brewing there later on. It's going to be a couple of years away, but it's coming. So yeah, going back to that, so I lost my virginity when I was really young, and it actually, I'm pretty sure a rumor went around the school about me, etc., and then my family found out. I was then grounded. I got grounded for having sex, and because it's all my parents knew what to do, you know, that was the, I'm pretty sure I got grounded. It was something like that. I got grounded. I got told off anyway. I was naughty. And all my parents were doing was the best thing they knew how. That was the only way, you know, they were worried about me, they cared about me, etc. So that's part of my womb story for sure. And then I think about when we were at school. What did we learn at sex ed? Like, what did we actually learn at sex ed? And what was taught, but what was transferred into perception into me or into other people at school? So, you know, you've got how the teacher perceives it and teaches it at their level and at their, I want to say like at their adult development, and then they teach it. And then it's here, but then how do I perceive it and what do I take from it? Because all I remember when I was in sex ed, when I was at school was I was nervous, I was embarrassed, and we were all silly and we were flirty with the boys and la. And I'm like, oh, okay, so did I really even learn anything in sex ed, or was I just distracted the whole fucking time? And then I think about it, I'm like, okay, so the main things that I remember, regardless whether they were taught to me, my perception and understanding of what I was taught in sex ed was don't have sex, use a condom, if you get an STI or you get pregnant, you're naughty and you're bad, and you're dirty and you're ruined if you get an STI, and you're in trouble if you have a baby, and if you have sex, you're going to have a baby or get an STI. That's kind of like my own perceptions of like what I feel I learnt as a young person in sex ed. That's all I can really remember. And then my own perception or feeling around, ooh, like, I'm cool if I had sex, like, is the other end. So, yeah, those were some perceptions from my teenagehood, I suppose. And I don't even remember getting my first bleed cycle. I don't really remember very clearly very much about that, but I can say that I went on the pill. So I went on the medical contraceptive pill very early on out of fear. Now I know that it was out of fear. Well, actually, because my parents told me that I needed to, and the doctor told me that I needed to, and I didn't really have a choice. And I understand where it comes from a place of love and protection and wanting to be safe and not wanting me to get an STI and not wanting me to get pregnant at a young age. And so the intention is of care. But that was kind of only, in my perception, that was kind of only the only perception I was ever understood that was like my only option. That was my only option. I didn't have anything else. And then now that I'm talking about it right in this moment, it's just dropping in to realize that, oh, it almost is like, oh, you're irresponsible and you have no responsibility because you're young and you don't have as much experience as other people. And what I'm realizing now too with the young people in my life, like the youth people that I do have in my personal life, that they ain't fucking dumb. They ain't fucking dumb. There's like 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, even some like 8-9-year-olds that I know And they know the stuff, guys. Like, you can't be turning a blind eye. Like, you can if you want. But then it's taking away that trust and open communication with those young people so that they can be all that they are and who they are. And then they can ask questions when they start having them come up and they don't already feel in shame when they're that young, and then they've had something happen in their brain or something's turned them on or something scared them or they've seen something and they're interested in their exploration. And instead they're in shame and they keep it to themselves because they know it's naughty and it's not allowed. Like, our shame, it starts right back. We didn't just pick up shame when we were just adults. It really does come through. So we're back to a womb story. Let's come back a little bit. Didn't realize I had so much of a flow coming through today, but it's just coming. So I was on the contraceptive pill and I've been on multiple different ones. Then I got migraines when I was a teen. Like, I think they were related to hormones, but there's a deeper, that's the only part of my health now that I haven't really got into a space where I can manage it naturally, because I haven't got to the core of how it has come out as a physical ailment in my body through my healing work yet. So I will discover that and keep learning and healing and growing through that. But anyway, so migraines. So if you get migraines, you understand that there's certain pills that will trigger migraines more, contraceptive pills. And so I was on multiple different ones and tried for a while, etc. And then I was on the depot injection for like 3 years, which I think when I first went on it, the doctor said to me that you can't be on it for over 2 years. My period was did not exist for that 3 years. So when I first went on the depot injection, I went back to the doctor. I was like, oh, my period stopped, and they were like, oh, that's normal. That's normal for the depot. That's fine. Blah blah blah. So I went for 3 years without a period, without a bleed cycle. And at first I thought it was fucking great, because I had only ever been taught that your period is yuck, it's painful, it's sore, it's annoying, all of those things. That's what I believed. That's what I was taught. That's what society, mainstream society, often as a core, not always, but as a core, that's what we're kind of taught. Periods are bad, they're a pain in the ass, they slow us down, they're painful, they're messy, they're yuck, like all this stigmatized stuff. I'm like, cool. Like, now that I've started to shift into this, I'm like, really? I was like, they are natural. They are completely natural, and they are what give us life. I'm like, oh my God, how did I take this on? How did I not know? At the same time, no shaming or visions of myself that believed that and knew that. And it's okay, we learn and we grow and we change through our learning and our space. So, yeah, 3 years without having my period, and I thought it was fucking great, because it's like, oh yay, that means I can have sex whenever I want because I don't have my period, I don't have to spend money on tampons, blah, 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 blah. So it was great. I was like, awesome, no period for 3 years. And then near the end of it, when I started to like, come off, I was like, shit, they do tell you that I think it's roughly like when you come off the depot injection that it might take around a year before you can get pregnant again. And I'm thinking, well, if it does that to my body, what am I doing? What am I putting in my body? Like, wow, that sounds fucking great. Anyway, so I came off that, and then I went on to another pill. And then I came into my herpes diagnosis. So I have herpes simplex virus type 2 genitally. If you have not discovered me before, or you're listening for the first time. And I was diagnosed with that in 2019. Prior to that, I had kind of some reoccurring UTIs, etc. What we thought were UTIs, but they weren't coming up on the tests, etc. I had spent a couple of times in hospital. I had a ovarian cyst that burst, I think is what they came up with for the diagnosis, but they were confused and they didn't really know. But it was extreme pain, and I was like on morphine and stuff, and they were worried that I had ovarian torsion and things like this. This was very close to my herpes diagnosis as well. So what I'm sharing now, this is all my womb story too, if you hadn't put that together. This is all parts of my womb story, and just even the physical, I suppose, physical event points of my womb story, not all the layers of all the emotions and the confusion and the feeling and the beliefs that I had within myself that I had created or that I had taken on from external society, shaming myself, guilt, blame, all of the things, or blame outwardly to others, etc. So this is part of a womb story, if that makes sense. So I spent that time in the hospital, etc. When I was diagnosed with herpes, I had no idea that cold sores on your face were even herpes. I had no idea. I was a nurse previously, and I don't consider myself dumb, but I just didn't know the thing. I just didn't know. And then all I was ever taught at school was, if you have an STI, you're dirty, you're this, you're that, you're the other, you're not good enough, you've slept around, you're that. So that is Worm's story that I have taken on from external society. And if you actually break it down and you actually start to just take a deep breath and really look at it and go, okay, so regardless of like a label of herpes or STI or chlamydia or HIV or whatever the STI or stigmatized label is, it's like, okay, cool. So we're all human. Most of us, generally majority of us, have sexual intercourse of some way or form, whether it is consented or non-consented. Sex is what brings human life onto the earth, and we do it, and it's a pleasure thing as well as a I was gonna say human production. That's not the word I was wanting. It's a pleasure thing. Reproduction, is that what I'm trying to get? Reproduction. So we all have sex. I want to say, so there may be some people, a small percentage, so like there may be a small percentage of people that do not have sex in the world, but we all have sex in some way or form. And we are all at risk. It is an inevitable that in some stage or phase or time of our life that we will acquire some sort of thing, whether it is a urine infection, thrush, anything, an STI, sore, pain in genitals, an infection of some sort, a skin thing, anything. We are human. We are human, but just because over time we have created this stigma that this word herpes or STI is dirty, now as a whole we've all gone, ooh, you're dirty, but we've just decided we're dirty, but we're just humans living human experiences. And one of the elements of it is, one of the elements of living human life is something called an STI, is herpes that we experience. Sophia says, wow, I never thought about this, intense, and this can go very deep. Yes, I have just realized that too. Beautiful. But it's inevitable that all children, you know, between the ages of like, and even from birth up to like 7 years old, they're full of snot. They get bugs. They get sick. It's inevitable. It's a human experience. They're going to get a cold. Don't tell me you've got a 7-year-old that's never ever been sick or had a rash or had a little reaction or had a nappy rash, had a snotty nose, had hand, foot and mouth or chicken pox. Like, it's inevitable because it's a human experience. And now I'm like just sitting in this space like, and so are STIs. STIs are too. They've just been labelled and created to be such a stigmatized motherfucking thing that everyone just has followed everyone else, me included before I had herpes. We've just followed everyone else to go, ooh, STIs are yuck. I used to be that. That used to be me. That used to be how I perceived it before I got genital herpes. Was, ooh, herpes. So we've just learned to just like follow on and just call everyone ooh that has an STI, but it's just the same as any other human experience that we've experienced. So back to Worm's story. It's so big. So yeah, my first 6 months of my herpes journey, I had reoccurring thrush. So if I didn't have herpes, I had thrush. If I didn't have thrush, I had herpes, and it would like trigger each other. And it was like the first 6 months, and it was fucking horrific. It was so painful, and I was emotionally like hating my life, and our alcohol issues, party drug issues, not sleeping, no self-care, didn't even know who I was absolutely like this radical version that was essential to me finding myself now, and I love every piece of her. But I had no awareness of anything. Like I just, okay, I need to get a job, okay, I work in a hospital, and I work, and I'm meant to buy a house, and I'm meant to find someone that will marry me and love me, and I'm meant to have kids, and blah, 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 blah. Because that's what society has told us. And now I've got like a rage of like boiling anger in me, because I'm like, cool, so society has just told us that we're just supposed to fit in this fucking box. And that's what I only ever knew. Until I got herpes, and it wasn't just like I got herpes and it was that 6 months, it was that 6 month window when I was diagnosed with genital herpes, and really it was a full on fucking death, the biggest death I've ever energetically been through ever in my life. I didn't know it at the time, but I look at it back now and I'm like, holy fucking shit, how am I here? Because it was the turning point. It was the light switch that turned on into me learning to question things and ask things and learn more and actually investigate and actually try and understand how I want my life to be and what I decide, rather than everyone just telling me that I have to be a certain way. Was I fucking happy nursing? No. Yes, I loved the nursing. Yes, I loved my team. Yes, I loved looking after little people and helping sick people get better, etc. I loved that. Don't tell me that, like, I love that, and I have a big place in my heart for that and for the people that are in that space. But was I happy? No. Was I doing what I was meant to be doing? No, I fucking wasn't. But society told me, well, Maddie, you've got the degree, you've got the nursing degree, so you need to do this, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 until you get married, and then you need to buy a house, and when you buy a house, everyone will go, congratulations, you're so great. And then what? And then am I even happy? Or do I get up every morning and I go to the hospital to work and have anxiety that I'm going to kill someone every day, that I'm not doing enough, that there's not enough hands on deck, and I'm stressed and not going to toilet, and it's been 14 hours and I haven't eaten, and I'm like, is this a lifestyle I want to live? And then herpes, like, again, so how is this? This is like womb story, but then womb story within, like, stories within the womb story. So self-worth and like life purpose stuff. So that 6 months was my turning point, and definitely related to, and this is how it shows that womb is like a physical thing, and the womb is an energy, but womb is also like our womb of life, like that energetic, like everything stems and comes from that as well. So that 6 months, then, so I think it was about maybe 3, 4, 5 months, probably 4 or 5 months after my herpes diagnosis was the first time that I stepped into disclosing my herpes diagnosis to a potential new sexual partner. And then I disclosed to him, I had like my first proper intentional sexual health conversation before letting someone into my body properly. And I must have been 25, probably 25 years old, and this was the first time I was actually learning that I needed to speak with the person that was going to be sharing my body and energy and space, etc. And so we had a sexual health conversation. We were drunk while we had it, so that's not great, but it was better than what I was doing before. So I had herpes, I disclosed, we used a condom, he was all good with it, la. 3 weeks later, I was hit with chlamydia. And it was the first person I had disclosed my herpes to, so I wouldn't forget if I had slept with anyone else. I'd only sleep with him. I'd disclosed, I'd done all the right things, I'd done everything that at school they told me to do. Have a sexual health conversation, be open and communicate. I disclosed my herpes. I used protection, and I only slept with one person, and the next minute I'm on the ground like bawling my eyes out, and I just quit my nursing right then and there on that day, effective immediately, and went on to the sickness benefit because I just could not cope. And it was, yes, it was the stigma, yes, it was the judgment, yes, it was, but it was my whole life unwinding, untwining And this comes into our womb story. And then when I had gone back to this person and told them, hey, like, actually, I have chlamydia, so I have a feeling you probably have it too because you're the only person I've had sex with, he reacted not very nicely, in a sense that he was like, well, you must have given it to me. And I said, well, no, I've been in hospital for 6 months. I've disclosed my herpes. I told you about my herpes, so why would I lie about the chlamydia? Like, this makes no sense. And I wouldn't forget if I had disclosed to someone else and had intercourse with someone else. So these are all the things in our womb story that can affect our daily life and our stories in our heads and our beliefs, if that makes sense. So moving on from there, I also had, I don't know if I mentioned about, I think I did, ovarian cyst that burst, but the doctors didn't really know, and it was really kind of confusing. And then I was meant to come back for a checkup, and then they cancelled it and all these things. So these are womb stories that come into us, and then they can also be like not just physical ones as well. So in my womb story, I really want to say like my intimacy, relationship, perception and cycle that I've had for most of my life. I'm breaking it now. I have been breaking it in the last like year of like the cycles of the partnerships that we call into us and magnetize into us. What does Sophia say? Sophia says, lol, love this. We do what society wants us to. Yeah, baby. Not anymore. Like, I haven't wanted sex since I started TYI. Very strange. Not like myself, but I'm actually not wanting it. And that's okay for me at the moment. My husband, I'm sure, is not liking this journey, but I had 4 children while in my 23 to 33. So I'm 50 this year. I needed to just give my womb a damn break. Yeah, baby. Good on you. And it's so big for boundaries as well, especially knowing, like if you know that your partner or someone is desiring something and you're not, and it's a conflict, and of course you want to please and give and care for others as well, but you also, like, what did you say, you have 3 children or 4? Oh my god. What did you say? I need to 4. Like, that is power, woman. You are so fucking special. Like, that is not just like, we just say that like, yeah, I had 4 kids. You don't just like wake up one day, have 1 kid, wake up the next day, have 1 kid. It's like, it's a whole fucking life fucking journey. It is so big, man. So womb story, what else? Yeah, womb story in the sense of the way we allow ourselves to be. Like, I know my personal womb story, it relates to relationship cycles, how I have allowed myself to be treated by other people because I, in the past, have been desperate. 100% desperate for love, to be loved, which can dip into inner child and definitely into family stuff, always wanting to be loved and feeling like you're not loved, so that deep stuff. So I would externally definitely look for that and magnetize that into my relationship, my romantic relationships in my life. And I settled for nothing, like again, it's like self-worth intertwined into desperation to be loved, and how I cycled for ages and just settling for the way people would. The guy that I most probably got my herpes from, because you can never know for sure because it lays dormant, but I know intuitively that that's where I got it from. Not that it matters because we have it anyway, so it's not a blame thing, but just putting into perspective for you. He used to do some very interesting things in social places around my herpes and stuff, and laugh at me in a bullying way, like, yeah, I gave that girl an STI, la la la, in a really social setting and things like this. And I allowed that at first because I didn't know, and I felt so much shame and I was scared and I was embarrassed, and I stand up for it. It was like, this is an awkward situation. But this is all my womb story. And this accumulates into the little basket of all our womb stories, all our stories within our womb that then come into who we are now. And then now this is why it's funny, because people may be surprised when I share this, but the one part in my life where I'm not confident is initiating intimacy with my partner it's not there. I don't have, and what? You said confident about everything else, but that's my womb story. That connects into it, and no one else will see that external because it's in my personal life, and that is a wound in my womb story of scaredness, unsureness, shame, fear of rejection, etc., etc. The other thing I just wanted to share around my womb story as well is going through my miscarriage. So I went through a miscarriage end of 2020. I fell pregnant a couple of months into a very, very new relationship, and we lived hours apart. At the time, I was feeling very, very detached from my family. I didn't feel like I could really tell them or express to them what I was going through, and I had left my whole life behind to heal my herpes and my mental health. So I was already going through that, and then I fell pregnant unexpectedly, unplanned, and then at that time, I'd actually had these limiting beliefs and these womb stories that I've got genital herpes and I've had chlamydia 4 or 5 times. What the doctors tell you is it will ruin your infertility if you get it more than 3 times or 4 times or something. So I'd taken that on board, and I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to have children. And if any of you know me from from my life, I love children, and it was always a dream. And I say it was always a dream because now it's not that it's not a dream or it is a dream, but I just trust if I'm meant to have children, I will. And that's really, I'm looking at my own face and I'm like, whoa, I say that so neutrally, because it's genuinely how I feel about children now. Is if I'm meant to have them, I'll have them. If I'm not meant to, I will. I won't, whatever. But yeah, at that time when I felt pregnant, I 100% believed that I was so not good enough. I could never have a child. I would never get pregnant. That my body wasn't capable because it was so fucking ruined, that it was so poisoned, that it was so toxic, that my body, my emotions, that who I was such a ball of fucking shame and disgrace that I would never have children. That's literally 100% what I embodied and felt of myself. And then I fell pregnant. And I was like, what the fuck is this? But now I look back, I was like, it was a gift. It was a gift. It was such a gift in learning. And so big. And that bubby was meant to come and then leave exactly when she did, because she had her purpose in alignment, and that's so special. So for that 3 months, I miscarried. I was living by myself. I hadn't actually told my mum and dad because I didn't want to stress them out, because I'd stressed them out enough from getting herpes and being the disgrace and being the twerk girl. That's literally what I felt. So I didn't tell my parents. They lived not far from me, but I didn't tell them until it was kind of nearly over. I didn't have any friends around. My partner at the time, he couldn't really deal with talking with me at the time, and he was far away, and we didn't know each other well. So I went through it alone, and the doctors kept saying that I was fine because my hormones were going up. I was like, yeah, they're going up, but they're not going up normally. I'm not a doctor, but I do know some elements of motherhood, pregnancy, hormones, and I continued to just try and support myself the best way I could. I was on sickness benefit still. Didn't really know what I was doing. Knew I wouldn't go back to nursing. And I kept bleeding on and off and having bad rectal pain, having pain in my body in different ways. Huge bloating. I looked so much more pregnant than I was because of bloating. So I looked way further along than I was. But it was bloating. It was all bloating and pain and stuff like that. So I kept on going back to the doctors and getting my hormones checked and stuff. And I said to them, I was like, I think I'm miscarrying, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no, it's all good. Don't think you're miscarrying. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Then when it got to the end ending or the going down to the end of my actual miscarriage, of like the healing of it and actually like stopping the bleeding, etc., then the team obviously realized that I was miscarrying. And then they were like, oh, quick, you need to take methotrexate, quick now. I'm pretty sure it's methotrexate, which for me, in my perception, I may be wrong on this, but it is like a form of a chemotherapy medication. And I was like, no, I don't, like, I'm getting better, because I was like, why do I need it now? I've been bleeding for 2.5 months. Like, I've been dealing with it for 2.5 months, and you've been pushing me to the side. And now you want me to take this chemotherapy type drug? And I was like, oh. So I asked what it was for, and she said that pretty much the medication, like, gets any extra debris or bits inside you, leftover bubby, or fetus, whatever you want to call it, it helps it to come away from your womb and your space. So that there's no complications like ectopic pregnancy or like bursting or like no risk of you dying, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, no, I don't feel the concern. And this is when I started to learn about my intuition a little bit more, to a more level, because I was like, oh no, I just feel like I just don't need that. Like, I get what you're saying and I'll take it if I need to, but something's telling me that I'm almost through it. And the cliche way would be follow what the systems say, follow what the doctors said. And I was like, well, no. So I just trust it. And people are like, well, Maddie, you didn't know. Well, that's a bit silly. And I'm like, well, it is if you don't believe in trusting your intuition. So that's okay. You go on your way and you go the way that works for you. But for me, this worked for me. Trusting my intuition that said, no, don't take it. Your body doesn't need it. And so I didn't take it, but I had one more conversation with the doctor or the nurse, and she did say to me, she said, oh, are you trying for a baby? And I said, no, it was an unplanned pregnancy. And she said, oh, well, just if you were to get pregnant again, if you took the medication, if you got pregnant again within 3 months of taking the medication, we will have to terminate your baby. And I was like, what? Why? And she was like, because the toxins in the medication would have, like, pretty much the baby's quality of life would be ruined. And that's when I went, are you fucking kidding me? So if it can do that to a fetus for 3 months after I've taken the medication, it can ruin a baby in my womb. I'm like, so you want me to put that in my body? So you're happy to, like, put that in my body, and my body be having all these toxins going around and all this shit in it. But if I get pregnant within 3 months of taking that, you'll have to terminate the baby because the baby won't be able to survive or have a quality of life. I was like, fuck off. I really, like, can you see how triggered I am in that? Because I was like, cool. I was like, well, I'm not. Of course I will. Of course I will take the medication if it gets to that point. And I would be open to it, but I wasn't needing it then. I was actually stable. I was coming out of my pain. I was coming out of my bleeding, and I mean physical pain. My body was starting to heal, like I was through the core of it, and my intuition knew that, and it was telling me, no, you don't need this right now. Like, yes, be open to it, be grateful for it, but no. So I didn't take the medication. I'm still here today, and I never took the medication, and I got through it, rather than taking a medication that was so toxic to my body that if I got pregnant I would need a baby terminated within the 3 months of taking the medication. So another element to my womb story. What did you say, Sophia? Sophia says, sending you a visual hug. Oh, thank you, beautiful. So special to have such a space where we can communicate and love and spend time together. So that was another part of my, I suppose, my womb story, is definitely my miscarriage and how I went through that. And I actually just had a big grieving of it like a month ago. It's interesting how we grieve. Kia ora, my friend Star. Hi, Maddie. We'll definitely need to watch the replay for this, I think. Yes. And then you can share your womb story with me. Lovely to have you here. What was I going going to say? Yeah, I had a grieve about a month ago. Isn't it interesting how we grieve and that we think that we're like grieved or we're healed and then it comes back again? And I really grieved that time with that bubby, but it wasn't also just about the bubby. It was the grieving of the expectation that I had always wanted children, and the grieving of the like feeling not good enough, like no one will ever love me, and grieving the stigma of herpes, and no one will ever love me and ever want to have children with me, no one will ever touch me again, all these other elements which just came, not just, but like came from this element of like, there's so many layers of coming from like, oh, I had a miscarriage and the loss of my baby, or the loss of the connection of the soul that came into my life to be a part of me and come through me. It opens so fucking much. Like, it is so womb stories are fucking important, guys. They're not just about the womb stories. There are so many layers in them. So many layers. So what have we shared about today? A bit of bleed cycle stuff, miscarriage, herpes, chlamydia, ovarian cysts, sexual partners, energy intertwining. So there is so much, like, these are just the things on top for me that I wanted to share today, just to try and bring and shine some light into, really, a womb story isn't just one word, and it isn't just one sentence. We all have a womb story, and the womb story can be really fucking big, and there's really big fucking layers to it, and everyone has one. You can try and say you don't have one if you want, but then you probably shouldn't be watching this live. But they're big, and there's so much layers of healing and of feeling heard and seen throughout them as well. So there can definitely be things like sexual abuse, or not even cliche sexual abuse, but like times where you've not actually wanted to have the sex, but you've not had the voice to speak up, etc. Or I just like choked then. Fuck. What was that meaning? Wow. Yeah. That's big. I don't know if you felt that. Our womb stories are important, and it's okay to talk about them. And after this big spontaneous share today, I invite you to share your womb story. Write it down on paper. Write it on the notepad on your phone, and feel free to come and share it with me. Meditate on it. Sit on it and just ask yourself the questions. Have a conversation with a safe friend. Your womb story is fucking power. And no one can tell you what your womb story is, because it's your own story. No one decides what your womb story is. You decide. No one else. Star says womb stories are so multi-dimensional and hold deep wisdom and insight. Love that you're sharing yours. Getting our great clearing at that block. Chica, yeah. Yeah, did you just see me choke? Yeah, really, really big. There's some other stuff that I'm not quite ready to share, just because I don't really know how to share it, because it involves other people. But there's definitely some other stuff that you intuitively know that interrelates into you, that isn't your womb story, but then it becomes a version of your own womb story. Star says, it's funny, I was about to do a meditation and was pondering what I'd reflect on. Now I know. Yeah, beautiful. I'm going to pull one more card, just because I feel like it. I feel such a sense of ease right now. Like, I almost feel like I need to just go and have a sleep. So yeah, we're shifting stuff, baby. Your womb story is important. And I hope that this lands for some of you guys today, because I never understood what a womb story was before. And a womb story can be anything that you make it to be, anything that comes out for you, and just trust. There is so much power in them. You can break the conditioning. You can break all of those bits and pieces that you have been told externally to fit in a box. All the stigmas about STIs, about bleeding, about childbirth, about sexual abuse, or your sexuality and how the fuck you want to show up and how feels good to you. You can break all of those. You can choose what you make your story to be. You don't have to listen to anyone else. You choose. You choose. Yes, your past womb story is the story that you have already created, but then you can recreate. You can recreate your own new, fresh womb story from here and into your future. You can create that. You have a choice, okay? You have a choice, and don't let anyone ever tell you that you don't have a choice. So much yes. Thank you for holding this space. Very powerful. Yes, we can fucking choose what we want to do with our bodies. We sure can, honey. Thank you for joining me today. It was lovely to have you in this space. What a big share. Express your love. Go ahead and make the romantic gesture. So Star, you'll know how this relates to me from last night. I shaved my legs for once yesterday, guys. I got out some nice lingerie. Express your love. Go ahead and make the romantic gesture. Let's see what our guidebook has to say today. Express your love, baby. 27. Express your love. Go ahead and make the romantic gesture. This card urges you to take the initiative in your love life. That may mean contacting someone to whom you're attracted or asking that person out on a date. It could also mean sending flowers, texts, or gifts to your beloved. As you express romance, these feelings pour through you. You actually become the biggest beneficiary of your romantic displays as you enjoy how they make you feel to an even greater degree. The more you give love, the more you experience it. Of course, do make sure that you're also open to receiving the love that comes to you from God, the angels, and other people. Yeah, baby. Okay, beautifuls. Thank you so much for joining me. Tomorrow I am dropping my soul healing starter package. So I will be launching that if you want to get in on that and check it out. If you want to get into soul healing and you don't know where to start, you want to go back to basics, get into the inner child, the shadow, psychic readings and why they're important, etc. So keep a lookout for that. That's dropping tomorrow. Love you all dearly and have a beautiful day.